Okay, it is part two, or round two of testing out room mics with the new room configuration here. I got my buddy Casper's in helping me today. Way more fun having two people, and also way easier when I can just come in and move mics around and he can do all the hitting. So this has been it's been a lot of fun, and we've learned a few things. The first goal was mono room mic around the kit. That's where I left off from part one, where it was mainly some different stereo setups. Had not had a chance to just take a single mic, figure out which one I like, kind of move it around, and see how it could add to the drum set. That was our first goal today, and we have found something we liked, and that is the Cascade Fathead 2 over on this side of the kit, about 4 feet, not about, exactly 4 feet from the front of the kit. Really neat what this adds, really neat. And we tried a few different spots. Dead center, we went on the other side, we even went back, 9 feet? All the way to 9 feet, all the way up to 3 feet. So we've got tape all over the floor everywhere over here, marking stuff out, trying different setups. This we settled on, we really dig it. We'll hear that in just a second. Once we found that, decided to revisit the placement of the 4080s. Because as you all know, if you've seen my videos, you know these are some of my favorite microphones. And they were over here, where I'm standing now, on this side of the kit, pretty much right in line with where the kick and the snare was. And I was digging it, especially when it was compressed. It was cool. But we wanted to see if we could improve it. So we did the same thing. We tried some different distances. We moved it forward 4 feet to match the other mic. Did not like that. Neither one of us were like, oh man, we did not like what this is doing to the kit. We went back as far as 9 feet also. Just sounded like another set of room mics. Stuck it on one of these awesome Tama stands, and they are pretty bitchin'. Lower, it was cool, closer, but it really did not give us still what I was hoping for. So we went back to our 6 foot placement, which is originally where it was, but decided to center. It's still kind of looking with the snare kind of in the middle, although the tom is hiding it a little bit. And we noticed that the low end, low mid, the beefiness all shifted. It's very different tone than it was when it was just a few feet over. And we both thought it would really help the kit out a lot more. So it was cool. So decided to roll with that today. So we're going to hear both of these mics and can actually kind of compare the 4080s to where they were in part one. And now, and I don't know if this is going to make this video or not, but we are pulling my good old Pearl kick drum out from my session kit, which is bitchin', by the way. And we're going to try a couple different things with some heads and some mics on that as well. So yeah, so I'll report back. Let's go take a listen to what that mic setup sounds like. Let's start with listening just to the Cascade Fathead 2 ribbon mic. So what I like about this mic in that position is really the kick and the snare. This is one of those mics that I'm not really looking for it to be noticed. I want it to be noticed when it's off. So when it's on, I'm hoping that this is just going to add a little bit of depth, maybe thickness to the kick and the snare. And if we get some from the toms and stuff too, great. But not necessarily here like, oh, we just kicked a room mic on. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna loop the first 4 bars, and I will turn this mic on after a couple bars. It actually does exactly what I want it to. This position of the front kit, even though this is more kind of side kit, I'm a big fan of anywhere around the front of the kit. Having said that, I don't always use it on every session. It is a little bit dependent on the style of music and the setup of the drums. When you have a 4-piece kit like this, or even a 5-piece if there's an extra tom, or a 6 for that matter if it's an extra rack and then an extra floor, you can do a lot of stuff with front kit mics. But if you get a big double bass kit that's all spread out all over the place, the placement of a single mic right in front of the kit gets a little trickier. Not that it's impossible, but I tend not to use them in those situations as much anyway. But on a 4-piece kit, you can kind of move it around and find a good spot. I like what this does. I also like the fact that, let me go to this ride cymbal section. Here's the cascade again. I like the fact that you don't hear a ton of ride cymbal. It does reinforce the kick and snare nicely, and you hear somebody from the ride, but it's not taking over that microphone. And that is, or can be, an issue with front kit mics if you have a drummer that really bashes the crap out of a ride, especially on a 4-piece or 5-piece when the ride cymbal's in the front, or if you get really pingy sounding rides. So you may have to play with it. You may have to try some different mics out to see what works. But I like how this mic is reinforcing the kick and the snare in a way that you don't necessarily notice until you turn it off. You realize, oh, we lost a little bit of size. That's exactly what I was hoping it would do, and I seem to be getting that. So that's pretty cool. We're gonna go back to the 4080 ribbons because we moved them. As you saw, we moved them to quite a few different places actually, and I'm really happy with how they've turned out now. And we'll compare not only how they picked the size of the kit up, but the stereo imaging as well. And for the record, I do not lose sleep over stereo room mics that pull a little here and there to the left and right. I don't care, especially if you're gonna compress them. It adds to the flavor and the chaos, and I like chaos. So here's the 4080 in that front kit position about, I think, 6 feet back. Okay, now let's take a quick listen to where they were a little more over on the side from round 1 of these experiments. And here they are now. Definitely feel a bit more solid to me, a little more confident sounding. So how about context? Because that's all that matters anyway. So here we go, some context. I'll kick them on after a couple bars. I'm much happier with that placement actually. I think it does what I want out of those mics, which is a bit more of a close room mic kind of sound than a roomy sound. One other thing I was playing around with the fat head was adding a little bit of saturation to that mic instead of compression. And for that, I was using the good old Trident Tiltration. I love this plugin. It's really simple set of filters that are fantastic, but this saturation is really cool. And you can push it all the way into like crunchy distortion if you wanted. We hear it with the kit. It just adds a different flavor of thickness, which is kind of cool. And it doesn't sound like a room mic. Even though it's figure 8, it's seeing all the room behind it. It doesn't really sound roomy. Use just a little bit of it, so when you turn it off, you kind of go, oh man, the drum set's missing something. At least that's how I would use that microphone, whether I'm using saturation or just using it just plain and clean with no additional processing or not. Hold on, stop the press. Stop the press, back up for a second. While I was putting this video together, I took a break and I decided to come in and just toss up those Red 12 mics from 12 Gates microphones in a kind of stereo pair. One right here and one right there. So there, I'm standing directly in front of the kit. So this one right here kind of has line of sight to the kick and the snare. And if I go over here, this one also has that same line of sight. And I just wanted to see what an Omni pair a little further back from where the 4080 ribbons were sounded like. And I've used those Red 12s before, actually quite a bit as room mics, and they sounded pretty cool. So I just wanted to do a test, and I think it sounded pretty cool. So I want to show you that real quickly. And just so you know, I eyeballed this. I just walked them back. They are probably good. See, 4080s are 6 feet from the kit, and we are easily another 4 feet back right now where those mics are. So let's go have a listen to the Red 12s. So let's take a listen to just the Red 12 mics through our pattern. Okay, couple things I noticed right away. First off is there's not a lot of attack in these mics, especially in the kick drum. I'd say there's more presence in the snare, but the kick drum doesn't have an attack. So you'll notice once we blend this in with the kit, it's not going to fundamentally alter the kick sound, but it will put some space, kind of air or roominess around it. It helps the snare quite a bit too. The other thing is the cymbals don't get loud, especially the ride cymbal. It's almost like being ducked down, which is something I like about these particular mics, especially if you're going to hit it with compressor, and we're going to do that in just a second. So let's start. I'm going to loop that first 4 bars. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm just going to blend the Red 12s back in. Actually pretty cool. Even if you crank it louder, I'm gonna go kind of obnoxiously loud here. Which is probably louder than you'd have a set of rooms in most applications, not all. I mean, I could totally see where that kind of sound would be cool, but those mics aren't far enough away to start getting the flam. but they're far enough away to where they add space around the kit. Now, you'll notice the stereo image, you know, the snare pulls a little to the left. It's because they're two Omni microphones and not ridiculously far apart. You're getting more of a kind of a smeared look at the kit. But I don't see that as a negative thing. If I'm just trying to create space in context, you're not going to hear any of those little, you know, pushes and pulls. It's just going to be this big thing that happens around the drums. Let's take a listen to the tom section now. I'm going to start with them off. That's actually pretty cool. And the fact that there isn't a ton of attack in these mics means that they're never really going to get in the way, unless you crank the volume, but they're never really going to get in the way of the actual tone of the close mics, which means you can kind of bend it around the close sound, especially with the compressor, which we're going to turn on now. Smack it. All right, I'm going to blend that in. Let's go take a listen to the tom section. I'll turn it off first. That's pretty cool. And here's the compressor. I just have some basic setting up here. Some basic setting that I'm hammering with 20 dB of reduction. And those mics are like 40 bucks a piece or something like that. Super cheap. I'm gonna go to this first 4 bars. And let's hear each of these mics back to back. So starting with the Red 12. (40-50) stereo, this in front of the kit, looking away. The Delphos right next to the 40-50 stereo. Sorry, Delphos 1. (40-80) ribbons in the middle of the room. Got a kick punch there. This is the Colaris that's about 12-13 feet back and 7-8 feet up and facing the wall. I actually really like that one blended in just a little bit. And here is the mono Cascade Fathead 2, about 4 feet in front of the kit, kind of on the hi-hat side. Each of these mics brings their own thing to the table. So I feel like that whatever the session is, now I have a good idea on multiple ways that I could capture whatever sound that the artist wants to capture. Whether it's a big, you know, crazy rock thing or whether we're doing something more stripped down. I know that I've got some really good options. And this session, honestly, will probably be something that I reference quite a bit for a while to hear how these mics sound like, to refresh my ears before a session if I'm in need of an idea or which direction to take. So this has been great. It's been super educational for me. I know it won't stop. If I come up with something cool down the road, I'll definitely film it and show everybody. Casper's, thank you, brother. It is so much more fun having someone else around to do this for you, especially another drummer that can hit. So I can just kind of move mics and we can come in and listen together. Really appreciate all your help. Thank you all for joining me on these videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you're all doing well. Happy recording, happy mixing. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.